Alright, what you see here is a NuTone ProLine 2 industrial ceiling fan. This is one of the two that I picked up with Nathan on Marketplace, well, Facebook Marketplace more specifically. These came out of a bakery, so they didn't really get heavy use. This one, well, they're both from August of 1998, 1999. So let me check on top of the tab again. The interesting thing about these two is that they both have two date codes. I'm going to show that tag. Well, the second one is March 2003. And then the other one is this, which says August of 1999. So, something I think I just mentioned, I've never seen that big of a gap between fans that have like two different date codes on them. Obviously, I'm going off the earlier date code, but these are probably one of the last NuTone ProLine 2s that were sold before they discontinued them and replaced them with the 3, which is basically the same thing as this in terms of appearance. The only difference is they have like a little cap on the bottom right here, and it doesn't come down as much here. It's a bit, basically have a cap right here instead of having this Alaska type motor or like the Dayton type motor. It's more smoothed on the bottom right here, and it has a cap. Otherwise, they're basically the same thing in terms of appearance and performance. But yeah. Well, for that being said, these fans are definitely not used a whole lot compared to other ones I've seen out in the wild, like ones in warehouse or something like that. The seller told me that it was his parents' bakery, and his father passed away, and then they just decided to close it down after almost good 15 to 20, 15, 17-ish years they were in business. And they took out the fans and figured they'd sell them since they were still good instead of just leaving them behind and they could probably get tossed. So yeah. Now these two are definitely the better ones out of the, like in terms of condition, out of the other two that I have, the 48-inch one and the other 56-inch one that's a little bit older than this one. These two are. Something I figured I'd mention is there is a way to tell if these are an older version of the NuTone ProLine 2 or if they're a newer version. One is that the ball and socket on the newer ones are black and the older ones have them in white. Another thing is that the newer ones don't have the 3 screws on the bottom, whereas the older ones do. That is a way to tell if they're an earlier version or a later version. I'm pretty sure the ones that have those bolts on the bottom are probably Alaska made ones. I'm not sure if the later ones are still, but like the 48-inch one, that one's definitely an Alaska made one and such. But yeah, I've seen these fans so much as a kid, it's not even funny. The Crosby supermarket, there's 6 of them there, and they had replaced the older version of the NuTone ProLine, the curved bladed ones, white, and they also were 2 extra ones above the counters of the older ProLines, but when they renovated the place and put up the new ones, they didn't put any above the counters for some reason. But yeah, these fans I've seen a lot at auto shops. There's a Town Fair Tire near the Savers that I used to work at. It has 5 of them up front. I always thought there was 6 of them up front, but I guess there was only 5. And there used to be 2 out back in the area where they did the tire changing on the cars and such. However, recently I had seen that they were replaced by silver lines, which is definitely an upgrade. Considering that these fans are known for having drifting capacitors, which means capacitors tend to go bad on these pretty easily. They definitely used cheaper quality capacitors. This one and the other, assumably the other one, definitely have failing capacitors most likely. If you see videos of these brand new out of the box, they go pretty fast. Could also be that the newer ones have the capacitors that fail on them more often than the older ones. That could be another thing. But with that being said, these are definitely more so on the commercial side instead of an industrial side, due to the fact that they're definitely more for like a lighter application type fan, like for a store, like a gas station maybe, or something like that. Not like a auto shop or um, a warehouse. But you see them there all the time because to the consumer, the fan with metal blades, they're all industrials, which they are, but there's certain types. These are definitely on more for like maybe like a grocery store, a church, or something like along those lines. But yeah, these are definitely big childhood fans for me. Um, I'm trying to think of other places I've seen these at. I've seen brown ones quite a bit. Something I figured I'd also mention is that I do remember in an old Regency catalog that I have, there was an industrial fan that looked very identical to these. Basically, actually, it might be the same exact fan, just relabeled for Regency. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it looks basically identical to this. But yeah, I am using these on a 4-speed Casablanca wall control, one that looks like a dimmer thing, because these both, or they came with a solid state control, and they were both used on the same one. Now I am wondering if that could have wore out the capacitors in them as well, but I doubt it. But because these are known for having failing capacitors tend to fail on them. But since I'd rather just test them the way they are, and then do an update video on whenever I do change the capacitors to them, I'll do that just to kind of get an idea how they perform and such. But yeah, they definitely resemble a lot of characteristics that you see like on the Sanyo KDK, most notably the blades and such. Motors definitely kind of resemble some of the Sanyos I see in the Dominican Republic or like national type ones. But yeah, these were. I know that Dan Spiffy Newman sent in a video when he tested the brown one that he got new in box a while back. That they were selling these at Menards for $30 back in the '90s, which honestly is a pretty good deal for them, despite them not being the best fan in terms of like as a industrial and such. But yeah, and something I've also noticed is the brown ones. I'm thinking the older versions are more of a glossy brown, and the later ones are more of like a matte brown and such. That's just something I've noticed. I forgot to mention in the video of the 48-inch one when I did the new fan video of it. I think that there was a place I saw that had two 48-inch ones in brown. At a diner, I did a video from a while ago. They're no longer there, unfortunately. They renovated. Thanks, because I actually would have liked to have grabbed those too. Since you don't see too many brown ones as much as the white ones, let alone in 48 inches. But yeah, let me go ahead and start it off on low. Ooh, it's starting off very slow. That is something I do like about these, is that they do have a very nice low speed to them. Like out of any industrials, these and Pro Line ones, they definitely have a very good low speed for them. Oh, it does depend on the control they're being used on as well. There's a very nice aesthetic glow to it. But yeah, there's also that there's an auto shop that had two of these. I did a video of them a while back too. One of them had bent blades on it, and the other one didn't. Those fans are still there to this day. I just haven't gone around to do another video of them. A lot of the time I did that video, I rode my bike to see a friend, and I was on the way back. And it was definitely like an hour, almost like an hour bike ride. So it's funny because once I had the Crosbys, I know that they go slower than this on the low speed. Could also be that since they use them a lot on the low speed, on a solid state control, most likely it might be causing the capacitor to fail quicker. It's just like putting more strain on it, I guess. I'm not sure. Either that's just the AC above it causing them to move. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of people do consider these to be a downgrade compared to the original Pro line. I mean, they're definitely not the best air movers for an industrial. Though I definitely will have to try these blades on the other one that I have, the third one. Well, the one I got a while back from Charles Smith or Chandru. Because one that's an older version, and two, I noticed in the video that Mark did of it, it did go pretty fast on the high speed. But since the blades are all bent, that would definitely kind of affect the air movement. So I definitely had to like swap the blades on it just to see how it performs. Another thing I also forgot to mention that's the difference between these newer versions and the older Pro Line 2s is that the screws that hold the blades on are actually ones that you can screw in with a Phillips, whereas the other ones are just hexagon ones that you just basically had to tighten with a wrench and such. Definitely more Alaska type, like the industrial one that I have in the Dominican Republic at my grandparents currently. Definitely got to bring that one up soon so I can do a video of that one as well. Yeah, it definitely has a good low speed to it. Moving some air. Would definitely be good for like bringing the heat down in the wintertime in this place that has high ceilings. All right, now for medium. I also do figure out, I also forgot to mention that the downruns on these ones are longer than the ones on the older versions that I have of the Pro Line 2s. I noticed that when I put the older Pro Line 2 that I have, the beat up one, next to these two on the shelf at the fan storage, and I noticed that the downruns on these were longer. Not sure why they did that, but I do know that there's actually a car place the next town over, the city that Nathan used to live in. It has two or three of these in a car dealership. The blades are kind of droopy and they're always a bit dirty. Never got around to doing a video of those or getting a picture of them, but that's another place that I've seen these at as well. There's also that stop at Amtrak stop in Wells, Maine that had two of these. Back when I was visiting dating a girl there at the time. Still friends, but that was like the one and only time I went up there. Due to the fact I wasn't driving and such. But yeah, these and the Daytons are like the two most seen industrial fans for me as a kid. Pro Line, one, definitely is a good second to third. Oh, and gold lines, of course. And the main industrial is definitely, I'm seeing a lot more now versus when I was a kid. And then again, it's not too many cheaper price industrials like were back then. But yeah, it's definitely medium's moving a good amount of air right now for medium high. Which medium high could also honestly be just the same as high. Cause I noticed that with some 4-speed wall controls, usually it's just too high speeds for certain fans. But yeah, I'm definitely keeping the second one, obviously. If I usually get industrials in pairs, or just any fan that comes with a pair, or if it comes with a third one, then I might sell the third one. But especially if I want to do a dual install, it's always good to always like to have a second one if possible. I gotta say though, I do find it very interesting that with the 48-inch ones, they had a different blade design. It kind of had like the older K blade design, just with like some lines on them and such, versus having just small blades like this one, of like this the same design. Then with the Pro Line 3, they had the same blade design, just smaller. Always found that to be a bit interesting. Now, obviously, these use stamp steel motors, and it's not the better, it's not the best type for an industrial, especially if they're running a lot. Like, the heat doesn't dissipate as well compared to a cast motor. But these ones at least have vents in them, unlike what, like the Dayton Marley's leading edges and such. So in a sense, these longevity wise will last better. The only thing is the capacitor probably will go out on these over time. Yeah, it's a good breeze on medium high. Now for high speed, which I'm wondering if it is going to go any faster or not. It's going just a tiny bit faster, not that much faster, but it's pushing a good breeze. But for an industrial fan, it's definitely not the most impressive. I mean, the KDK is definitely a blow this out of the park without a question. Gold line obviously performed better than this. Same thing with silver lines. But Hampton Bay Industrial probably outperforms this as well. I haven't really tested one up close in this type of environment to really determine that, but yeah, these are definitely, for what they are, they're definitely not bad, if especially for like a storage use. But the problem is they just tend to have failing capacitors. This one might have a capacitors going out. I'm actually looking at it. It's actually not going too slow compared to what I've seen other ones go on in terms of high speed. When I first ran it, it did go a bit slower, but I'm thinking it also could just be that the motor was a little bit stiff after not being used for a bit. Sometimes that tends to be the case with some of the fans that I test. I mean, it's definitely a decent breeze underneath it, but if I was to like put up a fan in a store, I'd honestly want something a little bit more powerful. But it depends on where. Like, if it's in a store that has a good AC and such, this would be fine for me. But if it's like in an area where it's hot, or like in an area like where it's an auto shop, something like that, obviously I'd prefer something stronger. Alright, now to shut it off and do spin down. But yeah, I always thought, while I was working at Savers, I always thought that if they had a few of these in the store, they would look pretty cool, especially running on the low speed. I obviously prefer if they'd had, obviously, gold lines would be a lot better, but I always thought that if they had like maybe 6 of these in the store, that would look pretty cool. Yeah, I remember I had seen the listing of these on Facebook Marketplace, and then WeFire 88 um, sent me the link of it, and I was already on my way to it, but I figured I'd just give them a shout out for it as well. But yeah, I already had one, but I figured, hey, 2 more might as well. Plus, they're basically in pristine condition, which in terms of finding industrials, that's not always the case. So yeah, they're not the hardest fan to find I mean, you do see them out in the wild quite a bit. It's just getting your hands on industrials versus getting your hands on a residential fan is definitely not as common. Plus, the guy was asking like $30 for the two of them, which I figured was a steal. Basically, I paid the price of what these want for new back then for the price of, but I got two of them. I'm not sure where else they sold these. I know Dan said they sold them at Menards. They probably sold them at like a ton of different places. I know they sold them at showrooms, like wedding showrooms back in the day as well, with other NuTone fans. Um, yeah. So yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and stay tuned for more videos to come.